Come già ti ho risposto molte volte, sarà mia cura seguire questo problema. E chiaramente non è di una portata così semplice e confitar, ma è un bebè di fronte a un titano di questa portata qui. Ma chiaramente ce la metteremo tutta ed è ovvio che dovremo andare in ambienti, in situazioni ben differenti dal nostro osservatorio nazionale. But let's go back to your basic question, if you don't mind, because I don't want... Basically, Mr. D'Amato was saying the vettings are becoming more and more stringent, the oil approvals are becoming more and more stringent, the typology, or I mean, let's say the systems are various between oil companies. Can we foresee the possibility that the oil companies will come an agreement and try to, let's say, have one system for oil major approval, so with one inspection we solve a problem for everybody?
No. It would be nice if the world was like that. I mean, there have been efforts to do that, and in fact the SIRE reporting system was partly an effort to do that, that people who subscribe to SIRE would do inspection reports and they would make them available to other subscribers. So that was really part of that basic idea. But it seems to me, certainly at the moment and in the immediate future, the direction is going the other way, that it is becoming more difficult for owners. The oil majors are becoming more and more demanding, and they are becoming more and more disparate in how they do their approvals. For example, over recent years, most oil majors will now not tell you what their criteria are, and they will not tell you if they reject the vessel why they are rejecting it. What I think has happened is Pt1ù2 was saying earlier today in relation to the offshore industry, every time there's a big casualty, you have a new pollution liability convention. And I think similarly in the tanker market, every time you have a big casualty, you have a ripple effect on the industry. And certainly since the likes of the Erica, the oil majors have just well and truly kept their heads down and kept as much distance as they can between themselves and any possible liability. So consequently, I don't think it's likely you will get that kind of system, and I think it is indeed moving the other way, and therefore it is becoming more and more difficult for the owners. But I think, as Mr. Camelli said, if you want to lift oil majors' cargoes, you just need to deal with it, and that's it. There's not a lot you can do to change the system, and the oil majors don't want to change it. That is the way they're going.
Can I just add one thing, though? Just to one word of optimism, and this is experience on the field. It is a fact that with OCIMF and SIRE, you tend to get less inspections nowadays. Major oil companies are relying on other inspections, thank God. So you may have a good inspection and then not be inspected for 3 or 4 months if it's done by a reliable company. So it's somehow, there is an effort, and somehow it's starting to work. So it's not all pessimism, sometimes.
Fine. But now, Federico Garolla, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to draw your attention to a couple of announcements concerning the Deepwater Horizon accidents. We are a company dealing in the offshore business, and naturally one of the major issues we are facing with is Deepwater Horizon accident. And last week, beginning of last week, Mr. Salazar, who is the Interior Secretary in US, lifted the 6 months moratorium for the deepwater activity, for the deepwater exploration activity. So it was 2 months in advance when it was supposed to be. The moratorium was supposed to last until the end of the year. Instead, Mr. Salazar in US lifted a couple of months earlier. Then soon after, after a couple of days, the European community abandoned the idea to apply the moratorium in European waters. So mainly this was due to the UK, which was against this idea. And so this is, I think this is very, very important. This is relevant for us as operator, since now there is an international consensus that the drilling should go ahead. And this is very, very relevant. So on the operator side, this is very, very, very good news. Certainly there will be more stringent rules and regulations concerning safety, but this is a very relevant issue. But the question is, who is going to pay the bill for this accident? Because we should not forget that there is a total claim which is supposed to range between 15 and $25 billion. And so we know that BP was not insured at all for this with P&I responsibility. And there is a fight between British Petroleum as a charterer and the rig and the platform owner, of course. There is the public administration who was making a claim, and we do not have to forget that there are a population who are making a very relevant class action. So in this very confused situation, I would like to ask Clive, from a legal perspective, from a legal point of view, how do you see the situation? What do you see as major issues? Thank you.
Well, I have to hold my hands up at the beginning and say that the Deepwater story is not one where I have particular expertise, so I'm speaking from rather general principles. It is interesting, as you say, BP was self-insured, as I understand it, for the casualty, which means that they are obviously going to be looking very much to lay off liabilities that they front up in the first instance. And I think one of the features of the early stages of the case was the public condemnation of BP, who I think handled the case in a very bad way and probably prejudiced their position in many people's eyes by their reaction to the casualty. But clearly what we're going to see now is a calmer approach. We're going to see more detailed investigation into the actual cause of this casualty, and we'll see a more legal and rational approach applied. Obviously, one's going to be looking at the subcontractors involved. BP have been the headliners in this because of their high profile. But I think now that it is perhaps off the television screens, we're going to see the more interesting aspects investigated as to the actual cause and apportionment of liability. In terms of where that will take us, I really couldn't venture a view.
Thank you. Giuseppe Lembo, President of the ULEMAR Compagnia di Navigazione, please.
In this meeting, English and Italian lawyers are attending, and I wish to humbly recommend that they start a study which is meant to update the New York Produce Charter Party, the edition of which today appears to be obsolete. and which anyway governs the majority of the present time charter. The English law must be queen. Thanks.
The only thing I can say is that I started this business with a New York producer as a trainee, so it was the first piece of paper that I had in my hands. I don't know if somebody wants to comment anything of this.
Can I just say that my understanding is that politically, drafting a new New York Produce Exchange form is extremely difficult because it involves not only BIMCO but also the FONASPA and the New Yorkers, and they don't seem to get on terribly well together. The other point I would make is that the last time that there was a revision, it seems to me that it was hardly used at all for many, many years, and people continued using the old 1946 form for donkey's years after it was revised. And still do. And still do, yes. A noble aspiration, but I fear it may be one that is incapable of achievement.